More on this, Euan Grant, the former law enforcement intelligence analyst for ex-Soviet states, joins us now.
Euan, good morning to you. What do you make of where we're at? I mean, it's been a busy week, but has much changed?
Yes, I think it has. I think it's intensified, and I think the point you've just made is spot on. These movements are the kind of things the US can monitor, and as you said earlier, you reported earlier, American surveillance planes or maybe drones have been over the northern borders where it's easier to spot.
But are we? Can I just ask, because they were talking about withdrawing troops and sending them back to their barracks. I mean, is this just moving those troops around, or are these 7,000 new troops that are coming in?
New. The troops, the concentration and the worries that I've been hearing from informed insiders is that we should be more concerned about the north and only then the south, i.e. Crimea, and only thirdly, directly in the east.
And strategically, Euan, why the north? Why is there a concentration, or why does there seem to be a vulnerability in the north?
Because the Ukrainian forces aren't in the north. Go for the soft spot.
Right.
They're in the Donbass.
Right. So, if Putin and Russia were to move, and that was their entry point, what would well, if Ukraine aren't there, who is going to be there? Who's going to stop them? Nobody?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
It is political and psychological then. Put the pressure on rather than necessarily kinetic pressure.
Well, we know that NATO can't put boots on the ground. We can't. So what role does NATO have to play in all of this? Are we just going to leave the Ukrainians to the Russians and they've just got to get on with it themselves?
Well, how long's a piece of string? If Russia really decides to push rather than shove, we can only help Ukraine in the long term. We can't really help her now.
Yeah. So, the British role in all of this, I mean, is it just, there in terms of moral support, or do you think we will end up being committed more than we are at the moment?
We'll be committed more because, frankly, we are still a backbone of European NATO. We are widely respected in Eastern Europe, and indeed, although they don't quite say it so much in the West, it's a complex one, NATO and the EU. But we won't be getting involved unless, of course, you have an accident, a Gulf of Tonkin, be it in the air or at sea. We won't be getting directly involved. But we will be there for the long term and after this cools down.
So the fact you pointed out this movement of troops, this build-up of troops in the north and this vulnerability in the north, is an invasion likely? Is it, well, certainly possible? Is it probable?
A few weeks ago, interviewed by Alistair Stewart here, I said the chance is 55-45. I'd now go to 45-55, which I suppose means possible rather than probable. But I would be worried about a false flag and a Russian initiative in the Donbass to either get them to break away or put further pressure. The false flag is what really worries me.
When you're talking